Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about episode 3 of Daredevil Born Again, which I have been dying to talk about here on the channel. I missed the first 2 episodes, but here I am because episode 3 has been just as good as these first 2 episodes have been. I've been loving this show so far, and I was the biggest fan of Daredevil when it was a thing back on Netflix in 2015. And so yes, I've been absolutely dying to talk about this show, so if you have not seen it, I'm going to be talking about spoilers for, this episode in general. I'm going to be focusing on episode 3, but obviously I'll have to spoil some things from the first 2 episodes, so if you're not caught up in the show, go check it out on Disney Plus. I think it is a great revival, and it is definitely a season 4 of that show that I used to love after so many years of it being gone. Cannot wait to jump right into this thing, so let's talk about it. And the thing that I want to get into with this video in general is, when the show was first announced and everybody was so excited that it was going to be a thing, and it is kind of up in the air that this was going to be a continuation of that original Netflix series, everybody was nervous about this thing coming out. And once the writer strike happened and the production was halted, and you heard that they're going to be basically reshooting the entire structure of this show and kind of starting over from scratch, getting new showrunner, getting new directors to kind of fix this series, I think everybody unanimously was extremely worried about it. And one of the quotes that got me extremely worried about this show was them saying that, it felt more like a procedural court drama than anything else. And so far, this show has barely had any Daredevil. In the first 15 minutes of the first episode, we got to see Daredevil in his costume swinging around like we've never seen him before, and that's all that we've gotten thus far. And when it comes to this segment that I like to do every once in a while, especially when it comes to the Disney Plus shows, whether it's Star Wars or Marvel, it's, what is the internet going to complain about this time? Because there's always a side of the internet that's going to complain about some things, and I think this is possibly going to be a complaint by people that are already hellbent on hating this show because of whatever political reasons that they're going to hate this show for. But it's going to be the idea that we haven't seen Daredevil, any action that we've seen from that original Netflix show thus far, and they're going to point at that quote and they're going to say things like that. But that's the thing about Matt Murdock and Daredevil. Yes, he is a vigilante, but he's only a vigilante if the legal system doesn't work. That is an integral part of his character because, yeah, he's a really great lawyer, like he said in No Way Home, and you see that in this episode. The court case and the actual court drama that you see inside this episode was incredibly thrilling. It was incredibly tense, and it was so engaging the entire time, and I love the character of Hector Ayala. I think the way that they wrote his character and the way they wrote this case and the way they presented all the evidence and information was incredibly engaging. I did not need to see Daredevil punching people in between all of these sequences to be enthralled by this episode. And so going into Matt Murdock's arc in the show so far, to see him, dealing with the death of Foggy Nelson, somebody so incredibly close to him, which was incredibly tragic, by the way. Every time they mention him in this episode was so incredibly just crushing for me. As somebody who absolutely loved that character, who loved the original show, is one hell of a way to, be the inciting incident for the character's arc inside of this season. But to see him be so affected by that death and to be willing to cross his own line, to push Bullseye off that building, essentially knowing that he's going to kill him in that moment, but luckily Bullseye did survive and he was able to, essentially push himself back down, to push that dark side of himself, that side of him that did cross that line that one fateful night, and say, I'm done with this. I'm not going to be a vigilante anymore. I'm going to put the horns away, and I'm never going to do this again. I'm going to let the legal system do its thing. And he did. And, Bullseye went to jail, and now he's dealing with this Hector Ayala case with White Tiger, somebody that is very similar to him, somebody who's just trying to do the right thing, but was caught in unfortunate circumstances with these corrupt cops. And he sees that the legal system in this specific case, it did work, and he was able to break out that wine, to talk about Foggy Nelson with his new girlfriend, and to have that drink at the end of the episode, to have that moment of levity, of hope in his life, but only to see the very end of the episode with somebody donning the Punisher symbol, shooting White Tiger in the head at the very end of the episode, was incredibly crushing. And it proves that, maybe Matt's darker side is right. Maybe that side of him, that vigilante side of him, is necessary for times like this where injustice will happen. And I think it's a great metaphor for our real world. And it's also a great, way to lead this character through his arc, to prove that, yes, Matt Murdock is a great lawyer. He is, a character that could, slowly do good just by doing those things, but sometimes that darker side, that his darker half, is absolutely necessary. And I love the fact that they've been kind of guiding us very slowly through these first episodes to bring us to a point where he's going to have to put the horns back on to face off against whatever he's going to be facing off inside of the rest of this season. And I so far love his character arc that he's had. And on the flip side of that, we got to see the mayor side of things with Wilson Fisk, and how, he is very much a Trump allegory inside of this season. I think nobody is really denying that at this point, which also is probably going to be the reason why some people just hate this show no matter what, because it has a very direct political stance on police corruption and using, or I guess abusing, the Punisher symbol for a reason that is very much much wrong when it comes to the actual meaning of the Punisher comics in general, and to see that the show is going to get into that is probably, I'm at least hoping that it's not going to shy away from those themes and those ideas, because now we get to see the reason why Wilson Fisk wanted to be mayor so badly, because he can essentially create this hate campaign against vigilantes, because that is a thing that tore him down time and time again. And you see that in our real world. These, these politicians or these political figures or these, bigots that we have inside of the White House use hate towards a particular group to push their own narrative, to gain, followers that also have a hatred towards certain types of people, and to, build that as just a rallying cry. And it's very scary because hate is it spreads like fire. It's extremely dangerous to see this character get a position of political power inside of this world, which feels terrifyingly more realistic than you'd hope. If you asked me 3 years ago, I probably would have guessed that if somebody told me that, Wilson Fisk is going to be mayor inside of the MCU, that's going to be a continuation of the events that happened in the first 3 seasons of Daredevil, I'd be like, that's the most unrealistic thing that they could possibly ever do. But now we live in the world that we live in, and so it is extremely realistic, and it's extremely terrifying to see this character now starting a hate campaign against vigilantes that has inspired somebody to don the Punisher symbol incorrectly to shoot White Tiger. That is mortifying. And that is all under the assumption that the person who killed White Tiger at the end of the episode is actually not Frank Castle, that it is going to be some other person, donning that symbol for the wrong reasons, which is probably why we're going to see Punisher get into this show. I'm very much hoping that we get to see Frank Castle in this next episode. We know that he's in the show. I just don't know how many episodes he's going to be in. If he's only in 1 episode, that's totally fine. Just any John Bernthal as this character is enough for me. And to see that they're really going to dive into these themes that they're getting into, it is incredibly exciting for me. This show does not hold its punches. I love it as a court procedural drama. If it was drawn out to the full 18 episodes, maybe it would feel a little bit tiresome. Maybe it would feel like it's drawing out a little bit too much. But I think the pacing of the show thus far has been really great. And I think the character work and the arc that Matt specifically has been going on and Wilson Fisk has been going on, and the direction I can see this show going is vastly interesting. I love that we got this show back. I love that it feels like a season 4, but also feels like its own new thing. It doesn't necessarily have the dark, gritty, and low budget tone that the original series had. It feels like it has a little bit more oomph to it. It feels like it has a little bit more, I guess, lightness to it as well, but also it does feel like a natural progression, a natural evolution of that show that we had in the past. And so I'm loving it so far. I'm very curious to hear what you guys think in the comment section down below. Are you loving Daredevil Born Again so far? What are your criticisms so far? What do you hope is going to happen in the future? And how heartbroken are you going to be from the death of both White Tiger and, of course, Foggy Nelson in that first episode? Because, yes, I have not gotten over it. I don't think I ever will. Such a great way to kick off this series and these arcs. I cannot wait to get more. But those are just going to be my thoughts on Daredevil Born Again. I know this was a quick video, but I just had to get my thoughts out there. I loved it. So I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. And of course, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more reviews just like this one. I just uploaded my review for Mickey 17, which also had very similar themes that this show has, that also some other things have. I think everything is just about Trump now, which maybe that's going to be too much for some people, but it is. So check out my review for Mickey 17 as well as my hopefully weekly reviews for this show. I am not always free on Tuesday nights to talk about this, but if I am, you'll bet that I will have a video out here on the channel for talking about this show in general. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope to see you all in my next one.